Sziasztok! Hi everyone, my name is Sándor. Welcome to my 4th beginner Hungarian lesson. I hope that you guys have watched my previous 3 videos, and if you have, it means that you already know the letters and the sounds of the Hungarian language. So today, I'm just going to show you all the letters in alphabetical order, and I'm gonna give you word examples, okay? Let's jump right into it, shall we? A. A. A good example would be Anya, which means mother. Anya. Anya. Mother. A. 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 A good example would be álom, which means dream. Álom. Álom. Dream. B. 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 A good example would be baba. Baba, which means baby. Baba. Baba. T. T. An example would be tapa, which means shark. Tapa. Tapa. Shark.
The next letter is ch. The sound is the same as the ch sound in English in words like chamber, chase, chess. A good example would be the word csók. It means kiss. Csók.
D. 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 An example would be drága. Drága, which means expensive. Drága. Drága. Expensive. Drága. D. 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 A good example would be bodza. Bodza, which means elderberry. Bodza. Bodza. Elderberry. Bodza. J. 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 An example with this sound would be dzsungel, which means jungle. Dzsungel. Dzsungel. Jungle. E. 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 Like in the word egér. Egér, which means mouse. Egér. Egér. Mouse. Egér. E. 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 A good example would be év, which means a year. Év. Év. Year. Év. F. 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 Like in the word félelem. Félelem, which means fear. Félelem. 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 Fear. Félelem. G. 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 Like in the word goal, which means goal. 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 But this word is only used in sports, okay? So if you'd like to reach your goals, we have a different word for that, so it's only used in sports. Goal. 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 J. 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 The hardest sound of the Hungarian language. J. J. Like in the word gyermek. Gyermek, which means child. Gyermek. Gyermek. Child. Gyermek. H. 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 An example would be the word has, which means house. Has. Has. House. Has. E. E. It's a short E. E. A good example would be ima. Ima, which means prayer. Ima. Ima. Prayer. E. E. It's a long E. E. A good example would be írni, which means to write. Írni. Írni. To write. Írni. Jé. 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 An example would be the word jel. Jel, which means sign. Jel. Jel. Sign. Jel. K. 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 An example would be kő. Kő, which means stone. It's a long sound, so it's not k, it's kő, which means stone. Kő. Okay, here comes the ly sound, which is also ye. Ye. A good example would be the word mély. Mély, which means deep. Something is deep. Mély. Mély. Deep.
The next letter is N. It's exactly the same as in English. A simple but important example would be the word név. It means name. Név. Next up is Eny. It doesn't have an English equivalent, but if you say the word vineyard, you get pretty close to the Hungarian sound. A great example of this sound is nyár. Summer. Nyár.
O. O. It's a short O. We also have a long O. O. A good example would be or. Or. Which means nose. Notice the two R's at the end of the word. There's a lot of Hungarian words which doubles the consonants. This is one of them. Or. Or. So if I were to say this with one R, it would sound like or. Or. It's not like that. It's or. Or. Roll your tongue a little bit longer, okay? Or. Or. Which means nose. O. O. It's a long O sound. An example would be óceán. Can you guess what it means? Yes, it is the ocean. Óceán. Óceán. Ocean. Óceán. Ö. 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 It's a short Ö sound. A good example would be öt. Öt, which means 5. Öt. Öt. 5. Ö. Ö. The long Ö sound. Ö. An example would be ősz, which means autumn or fall. Ősz. Ősz. Autumn. Ősz. P. 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 A good example would be papír. Papír, which means paper. Papír. 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 Paper. Q. 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 This sound doesn't really exist in the Hungarian language. We only use it for words of foreign origin. Okay? So I'm just throwing it out there. Q. Q. R. R. R is the R sound in English, but it's a lot stronger than the English R. 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 A good example would be the word rab. Rab, which means prisoner. Rab. 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 Prisoner. Esh. Esh. Esh is the SH sound in English, but in Hungarian is just this letter, esh. A great example with this sound would be the word sas, which means eagle. Sas. Sas. English speakers, please listen carefully. You tend to elongate the Hungarian vowels. This is a short vowel, so it sounds like sas. Sas. Eagle. S. 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 The Hungarian letter S combines the letters S and Z, so this is the Hungarian S. A great example with this sound would be the word szél. Szél, which means wind. Szél. Szél. Wind. T. 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 A good example with this sound would be the word tál, which means bowl. Tál. 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 Bowl. Ké. 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 An example with this sound would be something like ponty. Ponty, which means carp. Ponty. 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 Carp. U. 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 The short U sound. An example would be új. Új, which means finger. Új. Notice the two y's at the end of the word. As I mentioned before, Hungarian has a lot of words that doubles the consonant, so új. Új. Finger. Ú. Ú. Ú is the long oo sound. A great example with this sound would be the word új, which means new. Új. Új. So if I were to say new finger, I would say új, új. Can you hear the difference? A lot of times in spoken Hungarian, even Hungarians can't really comprehend which word are you talking about, új or something new, új. So if you're having troubles distinguishing these two words, it's not your problem. Even Hungarians tend to have this problem. So új and új, which means new. Új, új, ü, 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 a short ü sound. An example would be üllő. Notice the double consonants again. Üllő. So you elongate the L sound, okay? Üllő. Üllő, which means anvil. Anvil. Üllő. Üllő. If I were to say this with a single L, it would sound like ülő, which means somebody is sitting. So it's not like that, it's üllő. The L is long. Üllő. Anvil. Ü. 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 The long ü sound. A great example with this sound would be the word tűz, which means fire. Tűz. Tűz. If I were to say this with a short ü sound, it would sound like tűz. Tűz. It sounds very, very weird in Hungarian. It's tűz. Fire. V. 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 The best example with this sound would be the word víz. Víz, which means water. So now you know how to say fire and water in Hungarian. Tűz and víz. Víz. It's a long E sound, so it's not whiz. It's víz. Water. Dupla V. Dupla V. Dupla V. Again, this sound or this letter doesn't really exist in the Hungarian language, but we do use it for words that came from somewhere else, okay? So, dupla V. X. 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 This sound does exist in the Hungarian language, but it's very, very sparse. The best example with this sound would be the word sex. Everybody's favorite word, right? Sex. Guess what it means? Sex. 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 Y. 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 This letter doesn't really have a sound of its own in the Hungarian language, but we do use it, as you have seen this and experienced this. So, Y. Z. 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 A great example with this sound would be the word zene, which means music. Zene. Zene. Music. Zene. Zsé. 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 An example with this sound would be the word zsír. Again, it's a long E. Zsír. It means fat, but it's not like someone is fat. If someone is fat, we have a different word for that. It's body fat, okay? Zsír. Zsír. That's it for today, guys. I hope you guys got something out of this. Now you know the whole Hungarian alphabet, you know how the letters sound. So in the next episode, I'm going to talk about Hungarian greetings. Thank you guys very much for watching. Sziasztok, a viszontlátásra. Goodbye.